All right, hello, and welcome to the RBC Brooklyn Half Marathon panel. We'll call it a panel.
It is a panel.
Yeah, we got some panelists here. So without further ado, I'll introduce your panelists. But first, I'm Holly Victoria Furman. I am an event lead here at New York Roadrunners. I am working the finish for the Brooklyn Half Marathon. So if you have any questions about that, I got you. But here is Roberto, who is a senior advisor running engagement and coaching. He was a professional runner from 2004 to 2016. And during that time, he competed in the 1,500 meters at the 2004 Olympics. No big deal. The IAAF World Cross Country Championships and the Xterra Trail World Championship, where he placed 7th in 2012 and 5th in 2013. I know. Look at this guy we got here. He started coaching both individuals and groups in 2005, and in 2016, we were lucky enough to have him join our staff here at New York Roadrunners. He's coached runners of all ages, from middle schoolers on, and both remotely and in person. So that's Roberto.
Thank you. Really happy to be here. I feel like this is like an episode of This Is Your Life. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, super happy to be here with this great panelist. So thank you.
It's nice to learn about yourself live.
Yes, it's been so long. I don't know if I look my age, but that's like a lifetime ago. 2004, I think I'm doing the math right. I think that was like 500 years ago, give or take. So at least it feels that way. So.
All right, and then we have Amanda, test editor who has worked at Runner's World for 5 years and has run 20 marathons. I know, I can't even imagine. And coming up, she'll run her 10th consecutive Boston. Yeah, that's very soon. And she ran New York City Marathon in 2018 and swore to never run it again. Little disappointed about that. And you used to work at Levain Bakery. Ooh, if you do run the New York City Marathon and you go there afterwards, you can get a free cookie.
Okay, no, that's not true.
They gave me a cookie.
Actually, you know what? That is true. Just tell them I sent you. And don't get mad at me if they don't give you a free cookie. But yeah, I'm so glad to be here, visiting from Pennsylvania, from Runners World headquarters. And it'll be fun to talk to you about gear.
And down here on the end, we have Heidi, who is a thought leader in nutrition and has influenced millions through her media work, writing, and thriving consulting business. She's been part of the Women's Sports Medicine Center at HSS for over 20 years. She oversees a performance nutrition program at the Juilliard School and the School of American Ballet, and has consulted with numerous Broadway shows. She works with New York Knicks, New York Giants, New York Mets, NHL, MLS, WNBA, and many more.
Yeah.
I know, a lot of letters. I think I got them all right.
It's fine. It's all good. It's all good.
All right, so let's get started. We're about 5 weeks out from the RBC Brooklyn Half Marathon. So let's start off with what we think everybody should be doing to prepare, where we're at in the preparation for this really amazing half marathon race we have coming up. So Roberto, where should runners be in their training, and what should they be focusing on at this point?
Good question. They should be sitting in front of me right now or live at home. Hello. Yeah, but I guess before I answer, how many people are doing this race for the first time? Oh, wow. Okay. Look forward to seeing you out there. And yeah, hopefully everybody's feeling well. But yeah, so if you're doing it for the first time, which is the majority of people in front of us, definitely don't stress. The closer you get to the race, the more you start to go through that mental checklist of, I should have done this. I wish I had done this. You start to feel like you focus a little bit more on what you didn't do. So I would say focus on what you have done thus far. But with 5 weeks to go, hopefully you started at least 5 weeks ago. Some people maybe 7 weeks, making it about a total of 12 weeks or 3 months. So right about now, you still haven't hit your longest long run, but you should have done a handful of long runs. And the long run, I use air quotes, doesn't mean it's the longest long run you've ever done, but it just means, you're training for a half marathon, which is 13.1 miles. We all know that, right? Like, okay, you didn't sign up for the 5K portion. So yeah, that means that you might top out about maybe 10 miles for your longest long run, maybe 11. There is no magical number, but somewhere around that. Don't feel like you have to hit 12 or even 13. So yeah, with 5 weeks to go, maybe you've done a few long runs. Maybe you've only gotten up to 7 or 8 or 9, depending on where you were when you started. But by now you should know a little bit more about your nutrition, which we'll touch upon in a little bit, and you should already start to have an idea of what maybe your goal is or your pace, but again, doesn't have to be dialed in just yet.
So speaking of nutrition, Heidi, what should runners be thinking about as they're starting to build mileage, they're starting to work into their training, really start to get comfortable with it? What should we be thinking about with nutrition and adding that in?
So I think it's, obviously this is a tricky one because they're all different, right? You're starting from a different base, you have different body types, and you're at different levels of fitness. One of the great things about running is that your body is adapting. And so your training itself is helping you prepare. You're going to be able to store a little bit more carbohydrate. You're getting a little more efficient in how you use your fuel substrates. And so that's great. You're going to do your prep work. You're going to be prepared, right? You can check that off. But as you're training, and I'm going to make some generalizations, there's some different mindsets. Either you feel like, oh, I'm training, I can eat whatever I want. And that's actually not quite true until you're putting in some more miles. Or the flip is you're thinking in the back of your head somehow distorted, like I could maybe lose weight while I'm trying to run for this. And again, you're running for performance and strength and bragging rights. You're staying healthy, you're being fit. And so this is not the time to be dieting. You want to be able to fuel your runs. And that might look different on different days or throughout your cycle. And as your mileage is increasing, so is your food. And that's spread out throughout your meals. And then we could talk a little bit about, recovery or what you eat right before. But basically, if you're used to having, a half a cup of rice at lunch, you might need now a cup or a cup and a half. So it's not like totally, you're still having your chicken and your veggies or whatever, it's not, you might instead of having a sandwich have a wrap because it's like that much more carbs. So, carbs are your friend and you do need to have enough. Your proteins kind of staying the same. And your meals are really balanced. So you don't need to carbo load to be going out and doing your training loads, but you do need to have adequate carbohydrate, if that makes sense. It's a different sort of mindset. And how much that means is going to look different. And then we're not quite up to race time because by the time you're up to 12 miles, 13 miles, that is substantial. But 4 to 5 miles, you need more, but you're not carbo loading for that run, right? You're going to take in adequate before, enough the day before, but you're not having to, it's not a drastically different amount. And then we care about hydration 24/7. So really the big thing is practicing, and we'll get into that further on, what you're going to do.
Yeah, I also find it interesting in my own training how my appetite varies based on the different workouts I'm doing. So sometimes the harder workouts, I'll actually have less of an appetite those days. And then understanding that I should be focusing more on the lighter, the days where I do have more of an appetite to sort of even it out.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point because sometimes what happens is you don't feel so hungry after a hard workout. Maybe you've experienced that until you cool down and rehydrate. And then all of a sudden the hunger hits. Now, depending on when you work out, if you're working out in the morning or working out at night, I think that matters. And sometimes you're hungry the next day. You'll think, well, this is a light diet. Why am I so hungry? It's just because you're still making up for the day before. So sometimes there's a lag effect, but you do want to pay attention to that hunger. And sometimes intense workouts, again, sometimes it's even gender specific, whether, a hard workout can either, for some, does make you hungry, but for some, it blunts your hunger.
Very important to think about. Amanda, this is one of my favorite things, is gear. Absolute favorite thing to talk about. So let's talk watches. What should we be looking for in watches? How important are they for our training? What are the bells and whistles that we find important, less important? What's sort of frosting on the cake? Tell us about watches.
Yeah, sure. First of all, you guys are so lucky because I thought the half marathon was in 2 weeks. So good for you guys. You have plenty of time. And also, if you didn't know what 13.1 is, don't feel bad about it. Actually, one of our most popular searches on runnersworld.com is how long is a marathon? So you guys, you know what? There is no shame here. But yeah, watches. Oh my goodness. So you can get a watch from anywhere that is, I'm going to start high, over $1,000 to even just $20. Now, it really depends on the individual. Some things that you want to think about are, do you want your watch to be your personal assistant? For instance, I'm wearing my Garmin Forerunner 955 Solar. It's great. It powers up with a little bit of sun, but I feel like the battery life is kind of going really fast at this point. But it tells me about my sleep, but it also tells me about the usual stuff like my pace, my progress. It tells me like, you know, approximately like how fast I would run a 5K to a marathon, all that kind of good stuff. But maybe you just want to watch that tells you like laps. Our runner-in-chief, Jeff Dungate, he has an old Casio watch. You guys remember Casio, right? Like, I remember when I was a kid, they were like those like little things, and like they were like those like little tiny computers before like we had smartphones, and you just like send messages to like the other person who happened to have like a little Casio thing, which it wasn't that effective. But yeah, they still make those watches. They're like $20, and all they do is they just tell you laps. So that's about it. So you just like hit it when it starts, and then you hit it like when you're done. Voila, you have like how long you ran. Then you have something like the Garmin Enduro. That's the one that's like over 1,000. What you're paying for is like over like just incredible battery life. We have Pat Hein-Holmberg. He's our ultra runner on staff, and he does like hundreds and hundreds of miles over the course of a week, and that watch does not die. So that's important for him. It also comes with like a little flashlight on it, all the bells and whistles. Also, it tells you your location, the topography, all that good stuff. Do you need that? Maybe. Do you want to spend like over $1,000? Like I think it's $1,080 now. Probably not. So maybe like something between like 150. There's the Forerunner 55, I think. That one, it still connects to the GPS. It gives you your location. You can go on Strava, you know, beat all your friends, or see like, hey guys, this is my afternoon run, that kind of thing. Or for instance, the one that I'm wearing, I think it goes like around maybe 300. It's still a little up there, but like I said, it kind of becomes a part of your life where I have Apple Pay on it. I have had moments where I will go out to my car, I am almost out of my neighborhood, and then I realize, oh my God, I have everything on my wrist except for my license. So yeah, that's, it just really has to like depend on the individual. So just think about like, okay, do you want to really pay, like, are you really focused on stats, or do you just want the bare minimum, and then decide that way? So yeah, I'm sorry guys, that's like a lot to process, but there are tons and tons of watches out there, and you know, like the Apple Ultra, you can call like on there, but also like has like all of the, yeah, you know. Yeah, and also just one other thing, I recently did an article on watch rash. Guys, so like I said, you're gonna have like this very close relationship to your watch. You should take it off once in a while, because it gets really gross, and you know, even though like it's waterproof, you shouldn't like get it wet, you should dry it off. I spoke to a skin doctor, and they mentioned lichenification. Do you guys know what lichenification is? Do any of you watch The Last of Us and you see those clickers? Okay, so like lichens. So basically what happens is if you wear the watch too long, your like skin just gets like really thick from like where it is. So yeah, just take off your watch, you know, like don't become addicted to your watch. But yeah, find the one that's right for you. Just don't wear it all the time. Yeah.
I'm going to immediately take mine off. Because I do wear mine all the time. So since a lot of us are first-time half marathoners, let's talk about building mileage. Roberto, what's a good way to manage building up that mileage to help keep you nice and safe while you're doing so?
First, I will say I got hungry to listen to your response, and I was going through my day. I was like, "What did I eat?" I haven't run today, but so yeah, thank you for that.
But you still need to eat.
Yeah,
right.
but I still need to eat.
You still need to eat.
I don't want to bonk on the way home, but yeah, as far as building mileage, especially for you first-time half marathoners and those folks out there in virtual land, I would say, as I kind of mentioned with the long run, you know, you could get online. Runner's World's a great resource, obviously, here at NYRR, and you'll see numbers all over the place as far as you should try to get up to 30 miles a week, or you should run that. And like those are honestly just opinions. No two people are different, as you mentioned earlier. So just make sure you gradually build up your mileage to a sustainable place. Sustainable means where I'm still seeing benefits and fitness gains, but I'm not breaking myself down too much. That being said, training in and of itself, endurance training or distance running, is a system of building up, breaking down, building up, breaking down. As you do that, that's how you build endurance, how you build your cardiovascular fitness or engine, if you will. So as far as being 5 weeks out, as I said before, most people haven't hit their peak mileage, whatever that is. Honestly, people do run the half marathon, topping at 25 miles a week, where you think, wow, that's barely twice the distance, but it's really how you break that week down. Some people run 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, let's say. Some people run 4 days a week. Some people obviously run more than that. I would say ideally, if you're going to try to run a half marathon and set yourself up well for success not necessarily meaning performance, but just get through it, have a good experience, whether you're trying to chase a time, that's performance, or just the experience, you want to run at least 3 days a week. And that's going to give you a foundation of an easy run day, maybe a workout day, and then a long run day. The long run tends to be sort of the bedrock of any training program, whether it's a marathon or shorter, or whether it's a novice or new runner. So I say at least 3 days a week. Obviously, the more you can run within reason, the better. And then within those 3 days, hypothetically, of course, you want to make sure that you sandwich a lot of recovery, because the gains are made in the recovery. So if I go and run a really, really great long run today, and I don't recover tomorrow, then I'm not going to gain the benefits. Like, I still did the run, but I'm just going out the next day partying, maybe touring all over the city, not eating well, not recovering well. So it's like, I should be fitter come Monday because I've done the run, but like I'm actually more worn down because my body hasn't recovered. So make sure that regardless of what magical number you hit, whether it's 20 miles a week, 30, 40, 50, what have you, you are building in recovery, and you are gradually building up and listening to your body. Is that good? I hope I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was taking mental notes for my own training.
Yeah, I'll coach you later. I know your
please.
troubles. Yeah.
Okay, so back to gear. Again, my favorite. So as we're starting to build up for our first half marathon, what's some other important gear? I know we touched on watches. What else should we be thinking about and really helping set us up for success through our gear?
So really to set up yourself for success, and I think it's an annoying habit, but the only best thing to do is just kind of check on the weather. Guys, the weather around this time of year is very unpredictable. So you just have to look at 3 different scenarios where either it's just going to be really cold. Hopefully it won't be 5 weeks from now. So yeah, I don't. So maybe just 2 scenarios where you have to layer, then gradually delayer. Maybe it's going to rain. Maybe you want a nice lightweight rain jacket, or something it's going to be hot, but you want to do test runs. Don't wear anything new on race day. Another thing, I had trained, I trained people for a half marathon because I used to work at Flower, and I had the whole staff there. And I said to them, guys, make sure you have your Vaseline, just lather in Vaseline. All right, maybe don't lather in it, but just make sure that you put it in all of those rubbing spots, because you don't want to chafe. So that's what's good about test runs, but also Vaseline. It's kind of that little, secret ingredient just in case, prevent some friction. Yeah, just I guess get a few good test runs in your race shoes. If you're going for the carbon fiber plate kind of shoe, you don't want to wear it out. Don't use up all that magic, guys. Just go a few runs on those shoes, but save them up. Wear some nice cushion shoes, or maybe you're more on the lightweight, whatever. But yeah, just prepare, and also just know that when you wake up that morning, what's going to happen is going to happen. You put in the work, and so just be proud of yourself for that. That's about it.
Okay. So as we're starting to prepare for our first half marathon, I think a lot of us are probably encountering gels for the first time. Tell us about gels, Heidi. Give us some intel about that. What's a great way that we can utilize them, and any other tips to helping fuel sort of while we're actively training?
So of course, same with your, you're not going to put on a new pair of sneakers, running sneakers the day of. You really need to practice your race time nutrition before, because one, you're training your gut, because your gut, just like the rest of your body, needs to adapt to what you're doing. And so it's really important to find what works for you. And you'll be jazzed up the day of as it is, but still you want to have confidence that your body can handle it. So I'm going to go with gels, but the truth is, it doesn't have to be gels, right? Like, we're cool with it being, you can have Chex cereal or, potatoes if you want, if that works for you. It's really about getting substrate in. And, gels are just a convenient way and goes down kind of easy, especially if you don't want to chew. There's lots of different flavors, so that's the other thing, like what flavor works for you, especially when you're hot, not when you're sitting there watching TV, but when you're hot, you want to know what flavors go down. So most of the gels now are about 20 grams of carbohydrate, which is, what you're trying to do is, first of all, you're going in well stocked, well fueled. You might have a top off right before. And then starting around 45 minutes to an hour is when you're going to try to start to take in some substrate. It's, again, some of you are running, your paces are different, so how much you're going to need. But if you kind of chunk your run into 15 to 20 minute intervals and have a plan, I think that's the most helpful, but you guys say how, what your strategies are. And so you know how much hydration and what you want to take in substrate, and whether that's coming from, are you having water or are you having a sports drink? Because that's going to make a difference, because then you don't want to take in so much that it can't, your body can't absorb it all. So it's basically, these recommendations have changed and you have to practice. So is it 60 grams per hour? Is it 90 grams per hour? Up to 120? But if you're going for 2 hours, you're not going to need much more than 60 grams probably per hour, starting around 45 minutes. And so that means 20 grams every 20 minutes or so, and that's one gel every 20 minutes, or gel, sports drink gel, or chew, or whatever. But that's what you're really thinking about. Maybe some of you need more than that, probably not, maybe up to 90, but probably not for, again, like if you're under 2.5 hours. And then you want to look for a product that has a multiple carbohydrate source. So what I mean by that, and most of them again do now, it's going to be whether it's like sucrose and glucose or fructose, because I don't want to get too technical, but we have different transporters in our body for different types of carbohydrate. And if you have just one type, then it kind of slows down. If you have different ways in, your body can take all that carbohydrate into your system. So it's multiple transport, and then again, electrolytes. Do you need sodium? Are you a heavy, salty sweater or not? How much sodium do you need? Some products have more or less. So, and if you're taking in any other kind of electrolyte, you want to balance out what's in your product with what else you may be taking. So again, if you're taking a sports drink that has carbohydrate, you don't need a gel at the same time. You're going to chunk it out. And then look if there's any other. Some products put in a lot of stuff you don't really need while you're running, right? It's not important that you get B12 while you're running. So you're paying for something you don't need, like, don't do it. Caffeine is something other, and that's again, some people are caffeine responders, some people do terrible with caffeine. You got to know if you're a responder or not, and if that works for you. And again, then maybe have some with, some without, but you got to practice that and know that ahead of time, or you're taking some an hour before. Don't take it if you're not used to it, and you don't know how your body will respond to it, because it could go not so well in terms of your system and needing to use the restroom at a time you may not want to. What else? Anything else I should say about gels, Goose? There's going to be on the course, I think Science for Sport is sponsoring this event, so you might want to practice it ahead of time if you want to take what's on course and available to you. But again, start using it during your longer training runs to see how that sits with you.
And along the course, there are also fluid stations. There's water. There's a Gatorade Endurance. It's sort of a easier to stomach version of Gatorade.
And
it's a little bit lighter tasting.
And I think it has a little bit more electrolytes too, like a little bit more sodium, particularly. It's a little more sodium.
Yeah.
I would
geared
hope
towards
so
it.
with the name Endurance, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And then that Science and Sport Gel Station that's around mile 7 as you exit Prospect Park.
Yeah, and actually Gatorade is one of those that even if you're FODMAP, which is if your stomach is particularly sensitive, I think that's one of the ones that is FODMAP friendly. So, they have a reputation for a reason. They sponsor a lot. They've learned a lot.
I have a very sensitive tummy, but it likes the Gatorade Endurance.
Yeah,
so
it's
I
one that
found to always take that one.
Yeah.
So let's really dive into this nutrition topic. So Roberto, how do you advise runners to practice nutrition as we go through this training process?
Sure, and I'll say real quick, I saw your hand, so we'll definitely leave time for questions because we want to hear from all of you, especially first-time half marathoners. Yeah, I feel like you did such a great job answering the nutrition question that I guess I'll just piggyback off that. But as you're training, again, we're 5 weeks out, but most of you have come from 5 weeks or 7 weeks or even more before that. So we kind of touched upon it a little bit before, but you want to be making sure that your long runs, because those are the longest amount of time you're on your feet, are somewhat of a dress rehearsal. So those long runs should be what I'm going to wear. As far as attire, as you mentioned, shoes as well. You don't have to use the same shoes you're planning on racing every time, but get a couple runs in them to test them out. Same thing with attire, and maybe even layer up. I wouldn't say on a day like today because it's pretty warm, but if it's a cooler day in end of May or it's a rainy day, I could wear this long sleeve, I could layer, I could take it off. And then as far as nutrition, same thing. Let's say today is Thursday. Yeah, actually it is. So let's not even say that. It is Thursday. I guess my watch doesn't have the calendar feature. But yeah, so if today is Thursday, tomorrow is Friday. So I would say maybe tomorrow I'm going to practice what I'm going to eat 2 nights before the race. I'm going to do my long run on Sunday. So I'm going to be aware of what I'm going to have for lunch. I'm going to be aware of what I have for dinner and breakfast, and then same thing with the next day, meaning Saturday. And that way I see, okay, how did I feel on Sunday morning? Did I wake up hungry? Did I wake up with an upset stomach? And then also, what am I having for breakfast that morning? And, ideally, a lot of us, if we work 9 to 5s, Monday through Friday, we want to sleep in on the weekend. But, make sure you pick a long run day, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, and practice waking up a little earlier. I'm not saying wake up at 5 or 6 as you might have to for Brooklyn, but wake up a little earlier and see, okay, how is it having a bagel with peanut butter or a bowl of oatmeal or what have you? Nothing radical out of the ordinary, but just things that you can stomach, and then you go out and do your long run, and then you see, okay, I felt good, and now by doing that exercise that I just mentioned from Thursday to Friday to Saturday, you already locked that in, and you could do it maybe one more time just to make sure it's not a fluke, but now okay, come race week, I got all that sorted. I don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat. It might be boring, but I know what I'm going to have for dinner, for lunch and dinner and what have you 2 days before, and what I'm going to have for breakfast as well. And then the other component that you kind of touched upon is race day. So race day, you're practicing on your long run day. So it's like, what am I taking, how much of it, and when am I taking it? So am I taking a gel? Am I taking a mixture of a gel and a drink? For those of you who have not run the half marathon before, you might not know yet if you're going to be out there for 2 hours or 4 hours, but as you get further along in the next few weeks in your training, based on your long runs, based on those paces, you should have an idea, I'm going to be out there for 2, 3 hours, what have you. So that's also going to dictate how much you carry with you, because you don't want to come from a place of deficit. Deficit meaning I'm out there with about an hour of running to go, and I've run out of water, and I've run out of gel, so now I'm in a place of deficit where my body's sort of feeding on itself. That doesn't mean that you won't perform or you won't finish. You might just not set yourself up for a great performance. So when you go out for those long runs, just go out there and say, today I'm only running 2 hours, so I'm running 10 miles, whether you're going by minutes or miles. Regardless, say, I'm going to take a gel every 20 minutes or every 30 minutes, and whatever it is, try to stick to that between 20 and 30 or 35, let's say, versus saying, I'm going to take a gel every 3 miles, because if it's a warmer day, the temperature and the effects are going to hit you a bit different, and the mileage might start to take longer. So my first 3 miles were in 28 minutes, my next 3 miles are in 32 minutes, the next 3 miles are, so you're going longer and longer without taking that nutrition that you need, and you're, again, operating from a place of deficit. So again, practice what you're going to have for meals the few days before your long run, the day of your long run, and then practice what you're going to take with you on the long run, as well as what frequency and quantity. And you could do that, the beauty of it, you could do that in your upcoming long runs, and then by the time race week comes, you've dialed all that in, and you should be good to go.
I love hosting these because I always learn something.
Yeah.
I just learned to do it by minutes and not mileage.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel
I've
like
always been doing it by mileage.
Your friend.
I know.
My God.
Wow. That really just rocked my world a little bit.
Talk off. You're like, I've been doing it by nautical miles. I'm just out there like every 60 knots I'm going to take a gel. Minutes.
Sounds about right for me.
I'm just going to add to that and or reiterate what you're saying, point out like the importance, because when we think about what to eat before, often people think that morning, but before is 48 hours before. right? It takes 24 to 48 hours to really stock up. And when you're not, when you're doing your long run and you're really not doing much of a run, that's that taper. That taper isn't, you can sort of glycogen load by not doing much activity and still taking in your regular diet, which is hopefully up, or just understanding that it's a little bit more carb heavy as you're preparing. Again, so the proportion is just shifts, but it's not loading. Right?
Spot on.
So, yeah, it's that eating regularly that really matters. And in fact, eating a big heavy meal the night before for many is uncomfortable. So it's really thinking about breakfast and lunch being substantial and dinner, if anything, being more regular than overloaded. And I think the morning of issue is really important, especially because the day of the race, you're probably even getting up earlier. You might need to add one more because you're getting up earlier to get to the start line, and you might bring something with you to top off that you might not normally be doing during your training, but you'll have a good sense of how you're practicing once you start.
Yeah, so let's talk about that race day. So we're all showing up on race morning. We might have some gels that we're taking with us. This is something I've had to get creative about in the past. Where do we put those gels? What's some good storage options? What is your advice for us when we're trying to stash those gels somewhere?
Yeah, so definitely when you are calibrating your nutrition and you figure out not just like what you want to carry to fuel, but also, say that, I don't want to put this in your brain, but just like make sure you have like maybe some cash on you, or maybe like, I don't know, just some form of getting back to the finish line. Have a plan B, guys, just in case. But yeah, just like figure out like what you're carrying. And also for the options out there, you can go with Spy Belt. Some people don't like it because if you don't like put it on the right way, it can kind of like bounce around. So you have to do like a few test runs. Another option, if you like to run with your phone, I tend to not, but if you do, there is the koala clip. That's great for, I know women, we like put them like on the back of our sports bra. They tuck right in there. A lot of brands now, they have bras with also a pocket for your cell phone. Dudes, there are also shorts. A big question that I have with my staff is, are you a thigh guy or are you a back of the shorts person?
Did you say fly guy?
No, thigh guy.
Oh, thigh.
Yeah.
Although, did you see did you see, not Roberto Salsa, Ronaldo? Did you see
The football player?
For soccer, because it was called crotch snacks. Because he had pockets in his shorts and he was reaching down and eating, and people were like, "What is that?" Until they realized that it was, clearly he was taking in some chews.
I am definitely not running with my phone in my crotch. Yeah.
So like I said, the thigh or the back of the shorts. But yeah, there are a few options out there. I know some of these, they have the 2-in-1 shorts where it's like the liner, it's longer, it like hits like your mid-thigh. Women and guys like alike, I know like you get like some thigh rubbing. That's another thing to consider with gear and friction. So 2-in-1s are great for that. Also, a lot of these 2-in-1s, they have a phone pocket right on the shorts leg, so you can put it in there. Again, try it out. So if you do run with your phone, it might affect your gait pattern or it might not. I know that there are some shorts where they actually have these like little drop-in pockets to put in your gels. I can't really name any off at the top of my head, but if you go to runnersworld.com, you can find them. But yeah, there's like the good thing now is I think brands are starting to catch on that not only do women need pockets, but also everyone just wants more and more pockets. So yeah, like you can rely on that Spy Belt, but also just look out there, find like sports bras, find shorts, find little clip-on things, or I think there's like a little wrist pocket that you can just slide in there and whatever you can fit. Just test it out, but yeah, it's all about those pockets. Just look for those pockets.
Actually, if I pro tip that I started doing a few years ago, running our marathon, is and a lot of brands have like the running fanny pack that people will put around. I actually wear it around my my chest, like across, so it's in the back, and I keep it pretty tight, so there's not a lot of balancing. I usually have my phone in there and some gels, and then I'm running, and then when I want to take my phone out or gel. I just spin it around, get the zipper, put it, grab whatever gel, and then flip around. And I find that works for me because, I mean, for me personally, when I've run, whether it's a half marathon, I find if I put anything with a decent amount of pressure, because you want it to be snug, it just puts enough pressure on my bladder, then I end up having to, pull over. So for those of you who have not tried that, I would say that. I guess the other thing is, you're talking about pockets. I was thinking of the 1990s cargo shorts, just go out there running with that for those of you who were in high school in the 90s. But yeah.
I'm sorry, just a quick side note. If you do put something you tuck it in your bra or you do have a spy belt, again, I know I'm going to be a broken record on this, but Vaseline, okay? I remember this one race I ran and I put a gel, there was this pocket in between, and then of course after the race I felt great. I go take a shower, oh my god, my chest is burning, and I see this huge red indentation from just that gel rubbing up against constantly. And also guys, off topic with pockets, put Vaseline on your nipples. You'll thank me later.
I also really want to watch Roberto do this shoulder sling thing.
Let's go for a run together.
Yeah,
we could talk about minutes over miles, and I'll show you my technique. It's pretty good.
I know. You must look a lot cooler than I do, because I'm usually shoving them in gels in arm sleeves for me, and arm warmers.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit harder to get.
I wouldn't say I look cool, but if you see any photos of me from the marathons and half marathons, I usually have. I think I just did it for the United Airlines NYC half. I'm trying to remember. Although for that one, I looked like I was going skiing for the first few miles because I was just so layered up. I don't think I left my hoodie till the FDR maybe. So yeah, but that won't be happening for May. Fingers crossed.
Well, we have a lot more concerns if it's that cold for the Brooklyn half.
Fingers crossed.
So speaking of temperatures, actually, Heidi, sometimes we have these really hot days here for the Brooklyn Half Marathon. What would you suggest people do on those extra hot days out on the course?
Yeah, I mean, again, part of practicing is hydration, and we haven't really talked that much about it, but it's the same thing. It's, every 20 minutes, every 10 to 20 minutes, your one gulp is about 1 ounce, and you can need 4 to 6 ounces every 20 minutes. So you got to practice that. But then if it's really hot, you're going to need way more. And if you haven't practiced that, which it's hard to when it's not so hot, but you do want to really up your hydration, because that could take out the best of athletes, right? Having said that, especially for those who are going a little longer, it's not about just water. That's when you do want to make sure that you're getting in some sodium as well, and you're not just taking in water and water and water. The flip is hyponatremia. I'm not quite sure the half we're as concerned, but depending on how you're going in. The sodium helps with fluid balance. It helps your body regulate. So when you drink just water, you're not actually helping your hydration as much as, you drink a lot, you pee a lot kind of thing, right? And when you have a little bit of sodium, that helps. But you really do just need to up that hydration, go in well hydrated, wake up, have at least a cup, 8 to 12 ounces within an hour. You have another 8 to 12, even up to 20, depends on your size, it depends on your sweat rate. Everyone in here has a different sweat rate. Some of you drip, you haven't even you got to the start line, you're already dripping, and others you get through and you're like, huh, and whether you're a salty sweater or not, some of you might really lose a lot more sodium. So again, it's hard with general recommendations other than never hold back on drinking. There is a question, within the field, there's this little bit of a debate. Do you drink on thirst, or do you drink as planned? And I'm on the drink as planned. I don't think our thirst, when you're it's one thing when you're walking around in life, you get thirsty, you drink. But when you're active, your thirst mechanism doesn't always stay up with your hydration needs. So again, I think it's really important to have a plan.
Especially for those salty, sweaty runners like me.
Very much so, right? Is it hard to keep up for you?
Yes, it is. It's a job. I ran Brooklyn a couple years ago, and it was very hot, and I just got real familiar with those fluid stations.
Yeah. And again, practicing drinking on the run.
Yeah,
'cause
I
like you
actually
do
bought a
that, it's like-
hydration vest after the race so I could
yeah,
practice.
How much is on your shirt?
Yeah,
versus how much
yeah,
is
oh
in
yeah,
it.
exactly.
Right,
Yeah,
like,
they give you the water comes in these like little cups,
Right.
and I recommend pinching them, creating a little funnel, because the first time I tried to just drink it straight and I choked.
Yeah.
And it was very dramatic.
And let's talk about one other thing though, because it's part of training, and hydration. You probably aren't, it's very hard to keep up exactly. And one of the things we keep talking about what to have before, but the flip of that is recovery, right? What to have after. So, after your long runs, before your appetite has come back, if you, again, sort of eat on plan and have, that's when we talk about, a protein carbohydrate shake often, because it's just easy to go down chocolate milk, or, it's just easy to go down, but you could eat a turkey sandwich. It's not as convenient to have that available. You're not ready to have this, like, ugh, right? You're all hot and sweaty. It's not that it's magical. It's just that having that kind of like a shake is easy, but you do want to plan on having recovery, and hydration is part of that recovery, and really recognizing you can only have so much in sort of that window right after, and then you kind of cool down. An hour and a half later you eat, and then you're eating and drinking on schedule, again, to sort of catch up.
Great. Okay, so last pieces of advice. Roberto, hit us. What you got?
Just off the dome like that?
Yeah.
Like, all right, get me with the beat. Yeah, last piece of advice I would say, especially given this room, I'm not sure about out in virtual land, but there's a lot of new half marathoners. So I would say really soak up the journey, regardless of whether you've run 10 Bostons in a row or thereabouts, or you're about to run your first half marathon. Like, each building or training cycle is unique because it's like a different journey. So again, whether you've done a lot of runs, the races like both of us, or you're doing it, like, just soak up the experience and know that you never have your first time back. So enjoy that, but also there's no such thing as a perfect build-up. I've been on many of these panels. I was on one a month or so ago with like 2 legit pros that are looking to win the United Airlines NYC half. And they were talking about their build-up and like, I wish this and I wish that, and it's just normal. So just know that there's no perfect build-up. Be kind to yourself. Listen to your body. As Holly said, I ran professionally, and even then it took me many years to heed that advice that I heard. But listen to your body. It's the best feedback system that you have. So, training is inherently you're going to get tired, so that's okay. But you know the difference between fatigue and injury and just like the normal wear and tear of training. So listen to your body. It's, I guess maybe to wrap it up, it's better to be 10 miles undertrained than 1 mile overtrained, because it's that one extra run that you think you should do just to maybe have a prettier looking training log that could set you on the injury cycle. So better to show up to the race to the start line on race day if you're like, I could have done more, but hey, this is my first build-up. I learned a lot. Roberto was awesome at the panel, and I'm just gonna have a great race. So yeah, enjoy this build-up. Be kind to yourself, and you still have 5 weeks to go. So if things haven't gone as great as you'd like them to go, there's still plenty of time to continue building base and learn from the journey.
Yeah, you actually told me to listen to my body when I was asking you about shoes, and that was really helpful.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna be like, and it did not work.
No, it was very helpful. I just bought the same shoes because I liked them.
Either listen to your body or listen to your buddy. So regardless,
yeah.
I'm here for you. This is a heartwarming session.
Okay, speaking of gear, Amanda, last piece of advice, gear focus. What you got?
Oh, gear focused. Okay. Last piece of advice, just again, do those dress rehearsals. Outside of that, if you run with music, get that playlist going, I mean, just like, that's the fun part. Like, you guys are here, you're putting in the work. You have the gear, you did all the training, maybe you're prepared for the weather, who knows what's gonna happen, but the thing is, just remember to celebrate, and yeah, if you run with music, put in like all like those good jams. Also, not gear related, because I do remember I ran this 6 years ago. It's gonna be really crowded when you leave, so plan your exit well, because it's gonna be a mass exodus, trying to find the subway or just trying to find your way home. And also, if you guys like hot dogs, have that Coney Island hot dog, because I did not do that, and it is my biggest regret. I know.
Come back and have one.
I know. I will do that race again. I will. But yeah, just remember, it's a celebration. Like, don't think of it. Just think of it as a celebration. Yeah, that's my biggest to take away with that, or what I have to give to you.
I very conveniently had one of those hot dogs today. I know.
Were you down there or you just?
Yeah, we
Okay.
had a site visit for the finish area, which is on Coney Island, which is the coolest place to finish a race. You're right on the beach. It's amazing. Fully carnival city right down there. But yeah, then I had a nice little hot dog for lunch
Or
today.
have a Levain cookie courtesy of Amanda. No, I'm kidding.
Speaking of food, Heidi, from a nutrition perspective, final piece of advice.
To eat enough, make sure that you're eating enough, eat consistently, practice, trust your practice so that you will be prepared, and then nothing new on race day, and then go and rock it.
Amazing. So let's start fielding some questions. I think we have some online questions that were submitted ahead of time, so we'll start with some of those. Take it away over there.
All right, awesome. First question from Dennis in New Jersey. Is it too late to take a week off because of a minor nagging discomfort on my left foot?
I'll repeat it. I believe there's somebody from New Jersey, and they're asking if it's okay to take a week off due to minor discomfort in their foot, not food. I'll take the stab at it. Yeah, of course. Like I was just saying, listen to your body. Obviously, it isn't probably not ideal to take a week off, but it's better to take a week off now, and that kind of fits into that advice I said, where it's better to be 10 miles undertrained than 1 mile overtrained. So if that person hypothetically were to say, I'm 5 weeks out or so, I can't afford to take a week off, I'm just going to push through it. They might make it another week or two, but then once that bottom falls off, they're going to really be regretting it. So it's better to show up to the start line with that week off and maybe sacrifice a little bit of fitness for that extra recovery and being good to go.
Is there any? Do you recommend like cross training at all? Like you talked about the running. Like should they be doing, yoga or strength training or something else in between?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, cross training is great. And then for those of you who are maybe newer to running, cross training is essentially things like cycling. Yoga could be elliptical. People do swimming or even aqua jogging. So it's essentially doing things that kind of help boost your cardiovascular fitness with minimal to zero impact. Some people want to take a break completely on their day off or a week off like that gentleman online. But some people might say, I'm going to take a week off from running, but I'm going to cross train just to kind of, make sure I don't lose fitness. But the one thing I will say to that, and I was, a victim of that back in the day, is that I used to think, if I run 7 days a week, I'm going to be super fit. If I take 1 day off, there it goes. Like my whole fitness just like water down the drain. And honestly, the fitter you are, the longer you can maintain that fitness, meaning that you could probably go 2 weeks or even longer without losing any proper fitness. You might feel a little bit wonky or out of sync because you're in a routine. But so for this gentleman, definitely take that week off. Worry not. If you want to cross train, be smart about it. Don't go overboard. But it's always better to err on the side of caution.
You're making me feel a little bit better about not running today because I was
I am
very
here
tired.
for you today.
I know,
Like,
you're really supporting
you all can
me.
leave. This is just the
I know.
Roberto hour. Just turn
going
the
on a
chair.
journey over
Yeah.
here. I think we have some questions in the audience. So we're gonna have a mic come around to you. So raise your hands and we'll get to you.
Hi. What flavor Gatorade is on the course?
Oh, it's lemon lime. It's that nice yellow.
Okay, I had a question about the gels. I'm a back of the packer, so it's going to take me 3 hours plus. But if I normally do the gel about 40, 45 minutes. But if I do it every 20 minutes, I'd have to it's at least 10 gels.
Yeah.
How would you divide that for a back of the packer?
Great question. So there will be some on the course. You can kind of factor that in. I believe Holly said mile 7. Sometimes we say 6 point something, and people fact check us, but somewhere between 6 and 7. So I would say, practice on your long runs. I believe, you mentioned various different types of devices to carry gels. So, maybe in your long runs practice, okay, I'm going to have 2 in each pocket. That's going to take me through 90 minutes, let's say, or 3 hours, depending on the frequency. And then I'm going to take a sling or something, as I mentioned, and there I could put a few more. So if you're strategic about how you place them, you shouldn't really feel them. I know that, again, through my role at New York Roadrunners in the past, I've paced different people for the marathon, meaning to make it even easier for them, I've actually carried gels for myself because I have to make sure I could get there. And I've actually carried gels, extra gels for them because sometimes when you're running, whether you're experienced or not, you go to open it and it slips out of your hand, and the last thing you want to do is bend down to get it. Otherwise, you're going to get a rude awakening from 50,000 people behind you. So I've used to carry more gels than I need. And the thing is, it might, it might not feel ideal, but if you carry them strategically well, it should be, it shouldn't be that uncomfortable. So practice that in your long runs. And then the other thing is, like, if you're getting within a certain window of the finish line, let's say I got 40 minutes to go, or I got 3 miles, what have you, it's like, okay, I don't need that many more gels. You could donate them, to the streets, or leave them at an aid station. We have, wonderful volunteers that help with the cleanup, and that way you're not carrying as many, in the last hour or 45 minutes.
And I think that's something also that we talked about a little bit is trying stuff out on those long runs, and you can kind of see how your body responds to X number of gels while you do those long runs. I love that we have questions.
Yes.
How important are gels? I mean, can you do it without it? I mean, my father used to run, in the 70s, and no gels,
Right,
no nothing.
right.
We did it in
Little
school,
soda.
not the half marathon, but I mean long distances. So
right.
why it's gels
Right.
now?
Well, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be gels. You're really talking about can you go without any substrate, right? Because it doesn't have to be gels. Like I said, you could be taking in crushed pretzels, or sports drinks has substrate. It's about substrate, right? Carbohydrate. And you're right. In the old days, there are some people that say your body could adapt and you may become more metabolically efficient by not taking any. But the research kind of also supports that. And there is a question about can you overdo it, right? But that taking in that substrate helps to delay fatigue and gives you energy to keep going at a better pace, keep your pace up, and also without so much discomfort. Now, that it is trickier with the half marathon depending upon your pace, because for some of you, you might still be out there 3 or more hours, and some of you might be done in an hour and a half, in which case you don't need as much, right? But whereas with the marathon, you're going to bonk around mile 19, 20. You're probably not going to bonk in a half marathon, and so maybe we're over substrating a little bit. It kind of depends. So that's kind of the idea behind it. How important is it? And maybe depending on your pace, the general recommendation is that if you are going more than an hour and a half, again, even intensity matters, so an hour to an hour and a half, taking in substrate helps. And if you're exercising for less than an hour, you don't really need it. You don't need it when you're going on a 3 or 4 mile run, right? Right? But you do when you start getting to 6 miles and more. It's helpful.
Yeah, and I'll say
Would
quickly,
you agree
you said
with
6 miles, so yeah, no, I completely agree, but that's also why I say minutes over miles,
right.
because you say 6 miles, which is
Right,
spot
that's
on, but 6 miles for you might be an hour. For somebody might be an hour and change. For somebody it might be like 40 minutes, right? So it's like you want to make sure that you do what works for you, what you practice in your training, and you kind of stick to minutes over miles,
Right.
ideally.
Right. But again, so 6 miles even for someone who's a little, it's probably not going to be much more than an hour and an hour and a half to 2, So, but then, right, you might by that,
Can you recommend any flavors? What is the best flavors to get?
it's so individual.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's very personal.
Yeah. And there's flavor burnout that happens, by the way. Again, I'm not quite sure it's going to happen in this amount of time, but there's a flavor burnout. What you like in the beginning may be very different than what you like toward the end as you're getting tired and you're your whole physiology, your taste things change.
Yeah, what I would say, personally speaking, of course, is what I'm gonna have when I'm sitting on the couch watching TV. I want flavor. I want to have the experience. But when I'm running, literally head to toe, I don't want to think about my shoes. I don't want to be aware of them, whether they look cool or not. You're a star, by the way. And
So
also
cool.
with what I eat, I want to just put the drink in my mouth and forget about it, the gel in my mouth, and not be like, wow, cookies and cream, because your mouth is a little bit dry, this and that. So I would say
They might not-
pick,
you might not want
pick
sweet.
neutral flavors, but maybe some people want that kick. Some people do take caffeinated gels. For me personally, I want to just put it in my mouth, forget about it, and keep going. Same with shoes, same with what I'm wearing. You know, I want to have the experience and be in it, but I don't want to be thinking about, oh God, that had a really weird aftertaste, or that was really hard to swallow. Where's the next aid station? I need water. So, yeah.
So expanding on what to wear. So things are changing. So I did the whole winter running thing and got that, nailed that. Bought everything. So now I'm like, looking at the spring summer wardrobe. So a couple of specific questions. I hear cotton is rotten. But for spring summer, I don't have any like polyester like tank tops, and then so just spring summer, and then specifically race day for Brooklyn. Like, is the shirt that we wear a full shirt, or is it a tank, or?
That's up to you. You can wear.
No, the official.
No, he means
like,
what we're getting.
oh.
Yeah, it's always a T-shirt, like what I'm wearing.
It'll be okay.
Yeah, like tech material. So, we often say, you mentioned nothing new on race day. We always see people at our various races wearing race shirt that they just picked up the day before or so at the various expos. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes, as you said, like put nipple cream or whatever. The things like you wearing a shirt for the first time, you might risk chafing. But I'll take a quick stab at it and pass it on to you because it's gear. But yeah, like we're into spring now, and obviously today seems like a lovely summer's day. So I would just say just practice, at least for me. But just practice running in the condition that the day provides, because like today is, I think, in the 80s or so. By May 19th or so, we might have a 60-degree day and rainy, which will feel really, really cold compared to what you've been training in. So I always say to people, train in the weather, again, as long as it's safe to go out there, train in the weather that the day gives you, because you never know what you're going to have on race day, and appropriately wear the clothing. So, for a day like today, most of us would probably be out there in a tank top or a short sleeve t-shirt like this, but it's more about what this material is. You said cotton is rotten. It might be the case, but like for me, I prefer tech material because it's going to wick the moisture away. And some people, as you mentioned, are heavy sweaters. I'm not. Holly peels an orange and she breaks out into a full sweat. She knows what she's going to wear. I know what I'm going to wear. And that also, I would say, goes to socks. You're speaking about gear, because some people do get chafing between their toes because of the sweating. So again, make sure you're not wearing like your grandfather's tube socks either.
Okay, thank you.
No, yeah, that was really good. Like, you hit on most of those points. I like cotton is rotten. We have some people on staff who like to wear cotton for races. So if you really want to look like a badass and you want to have lots of sweat stains, it makes for a great photo. But yeah, just one thing, a good material, I don't think you have to wear it on race day, but for like those iffy days where it's kind of cool, but it's kind of like temperate, merino wool is great. It's thin, it's breathable. If you're wearing a long sleeve, you can just roll up those sleeves and you're good to go. But yeah, look for that mesh, look for that lycra, that nylon, those tech shirts, anything with like a lot of holes, for like some ventilation. But yeah, and then just like practice wearing it. Also, yeah, I'm so glad that you touched on socks. Yeah, those cotton socks, those Hanes, those pack of Hanes socks that you can get at Walmart. I used to wear those guys. There were like so many other options out there. Sure, they are a little pricey, but you are really getting a bang for your buck. Some of them are actually come with different levels of cushioning. You have some more cushioned socks. You have the Injinji socks where they're like those individual toes, so that way you don't get the rubbing in between your toes. So yeah, it's just like from head to toe, test that out. Also, if it's going to be sunny, think of also headwear, and please put on your sunscreen.
Good point.
Do we have any more questions from our live audience?
I will say real quick, since we mentioned socks, some socks out there, running socks, they have a left foot and right foot sock, so be aware of that. It's just slightly the way it's contoured. I don't know if I've ever bought any, but I keep finding them when I do laundry, and it's the worst thing, because sometimes I'm like, God, I don't want to put my right foot in my left foot. I don't think about it, but
It's funny, I keep finding that when I look down at my feet, I'm wearing the wrong ones on the wrong feet.
And are you aware of it after, like?
Usually no,
Yeah.
but if I do feel a little weird bit of seam, then I'm like, All right, I wasn't going crazy.
Exactly. Like I don't put them on. I was like, I meant to turn left, and I can only turn right. But you know, for those of you new runners out there, I would say, you know, running, relatively speaking, it's an inexpensive sport. Like, you know, obviously we mentioned at the top of the end, watches and shoes can cost a lot, especially if you're kind of cycling through a few of them. But the way I rationalize, and we were just speaking about this, I believe, yesterday, is that money that you're investing into being in the proper shoes, wearing the proper gear, is going to keep you healthy. So there's that going to be money that you're not having to spend later on at the PT, on doing recovery, you know, when you're injured. Obviously, if you are injured, we do want you to go see our friends at HSS, but ideally, you're not getting injured because you're, you know, skimming on and wearing your awesome Air Jordans that you're going to the gym with and trying to do a long run in them.
I just learned about left and right socks.
Are you serious?
I just thought it was so they wore consistently, but now
We're
I
gonna
didn't
have
know
to
they
have
were.
Holly and Roberto is
cushioned.
our 101. Tune in for our podcast. Yeah.
I am immediately gonna go home and make sure I'm wearing the right socks from now on.
Well, because when I was getting dressed to come here today, I grabbed my socks and I saw the left one. I was like, "Where's the right one? I'm gonna be late."
I sort of intentionally wear them backwards.
All right. Well, we're learning a lot about Holly today. I love
I
it.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to wear my socks properly.
Yeah. A heavy sweater and backwards socks, among other things. Yeah, many talents.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Any logistical questions? Any questions for our panelists? All right, well then I think we can wrap this up. We're looking forward to having you all out there on the course. Definitely check out the pre-party. It's gonna be a great time. A lot of good planning's going into that. Our team's working hard to bring you the best Brooklyn Half Marathon we can. And I'll see you there at the finish line, because that's where I'll be on race day.
Yeah. And a really quick shout out to Holly's team at NYRR. They're the events team, so all the races that you come to, our weekend events, our weekend races, they're the ones behind the scenes getting up super early, making sure the race is secure, the course is secure, and that's also why she was at the finish line today eating hot dogs. So there are some perks there, but yeah, shout out to your team.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.